Welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to take a closer look at Marvell Technology, ticker MRVL. A few days ago, I did a video on AI updates, and the company I mentioned there was Marvell, and we got a lot of great interest in the comments about this being a top AI stock. So, in today's episode, what I want to do is take a closer look at valuations, take a closer look at revenue, take a closer look at what this company does, and my overall thoughts. So, let's get started with today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so Marvell Technology, ticker MRVL, currently a market cap of roughly $59.3 billion. It does have a dividend yield of roughly 0.3%. Year to date, the stock is up roughly 17%. In the past year, the stock is up over 69%, but we can see from its 52-week peak, the stock has kind of fallen roughly 20%. So we've definitely seen a bit of a correction here for Marvell Technologies. We're going to take a closer look. Marvell in forms of PE ratio right now sitting at roughly 23.61. Forward PE ratio is expected to be increased to 48.29. Some of you might be wondering, hey, Jose, why is forward PE ratio expected to grow or to get more expensive? The main reason, we're going to see Marvell does deal with certain markets that are still seeing a bit of a weakness, and because of that certain weakness, their earnings is expected to drop, forcing their PE ratio to go higher. But if we take a closer look at forward 1 year, Marvell's PE ratio is expected to drop down to roughly 27.68. So forward, for those that are not familiar, is the end of this fiscal year, which is probably in the next 12 months. Forward 1 year is the end of next fiscal year, so the end of the next 24 months. Now, before we take a closer look at this company, at what they do, and some pretty cool presentation slides that I have here set up for you, let's just take a closer look at their financials. Free cash flow is positive with roughly $465 million. They do have a nice amount of total long-term debt. They have made a few acquisitions here and there of roughly $4.2 billion. We're going to break that down in a bit, and cash and short-term investments of roughly $1 billion. So they do have a nice amount of total long-term debt, but we're going to see it's nothing too crazy, especially since they are positive in free cash flow, and they do have almost $1 billion in cash and short-term investments. Before we go any further, we are now on the road to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you all for the crazy support. So if you haven't and are enjoying the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Finally, if you want to support the channel a little bit more, make sure to check out my special offer at fool.com/Jose. Now back to today's episode. So now that we looked at this company's valuations, we looked a little bit of their balance sheet and their overall price performance in the past year or so, I want to take a closer look at what this company does. So if we take a look at their 10K report, Marvell mentions that they are a leading supplier of data infrastructure semiconductor solutions, spanning the data center core to the network edge. They are a fabless semiconductor supplier of high performance standard and semi-custom products. So right off the bat, we did learn that a few things. They are fabless, so they don't do the manufacturing themselves, which is always great news in my opinion, and they deal in high performance solutions and semi-custom solutions. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a bit. So if we look at their overall revenue, we can see that the data center market is roughly 40% of this company's total revenue. And if you do believe, and we do know that the AI market is here, that data centers are continuing to grow, this is a market that could be bullish for them in the long term of things. Obviously, if we take a closer look at revenue versus a year ago, company has seen a bit of a slowdown, but like I mentioned, a lot of segments that Marvell is in right now are in over inventory correction, are seeing pressures due to kind of high rates. Data center was one of them. The enterprise market was another. The carrier infrastructure, which is like the telecommunication, was another. And obviously the consumer as well. And right now we're seeing kind of a weakness in the automotive and industrial space. So we can see while this company is very diversified, sometimes that diversification can hurt it if certain markets are seeing a bit of a slowdown. Now here, I'm just going to leave this here real quick. If you want to pause it, you can see all all the end markets that we just looked at and their customers and applications. If you want to know more about their data centers, about the consumer, and where you might experience some of their products. Now, if we look at their 10K report, they also give us a lot of great information on the type of products that they have. I went on to their slideshows to even find images so we can understand them a little bit more. So one of the segments that they hit is the electro optics. They offer high-speed optical communication semiconductor solutions for inside cloud data centers. So what's very important is when you want to transfer data amongst one part to another part, or wherever, from one component to another component, or from just one side to another side, the easiest and fastest way to do it is via optics, right? What's faster than the speed of light? So these are the optical fibers and kind of some of the hardware that is used for these types of communication. And inside these devices, you will see a lot of Marvell's products, like their DSPs, which is digital to signal processors, their drivers, their TIA, which are transimpedance amplifiers. So we can see within this one component, Marvell makes the chips that go within that components that help drive that solution. So just like how AMD makes CPUs for a computer, I think this is probably the best way to think about it. Let's say AMD, right? They make CPUs and GPUs, not necessarily an eye to eye, but let's say this is the computer, right? This is your desktop. And within there, Marvell provides semiconductor solutions that deal different process, or that do different types of workloads for that PC, right? So we saw the DSPs, the TIA, and the list goes on and on. Now, one of the big markets for them is the custom ASICs. And if you are familiar with this channel, this is something that we've talked about. So ASIC solutions is when a company goes out there and creates their own semiconductor solution, where they create their own chip. We've seen a lot of companies do this right now. So in the custom ASICs, they mentioned that they develop custom system on chip solutions tailored to individual customer specifications. And since they are a design company, they continue to execute and work on next generation process nodes. For example, they already executed multiple 5 nanometer technologies in the last few years, and they are progressing through 3 nanometer designs and eventually to 2 nanometers. They're also working on different types of packaging like 2.5D and 3D advanced packaging, so they are able to create some amazing chips. So this is probably one that a lot of people are excited about. So I think these two, the networking for the data center and kind of the custom ASICs, are the biggest growth opportunities for Marvell in the future. Another thing that they do is they do create kind of processors to some extent that go into the Ethernet switches, like the Marvell Teralinks, which are used in a lot of Ethernet switching companies to create their kind of Ethernet switch network. And here are other products that they have. They have processors that are used to create DPUs. They have numerous switches for the automotive market. They have storage channel controllers as well. And again, some of the electro-optics and networking products that we just talked about. So hopefully now you understand a lot more of what Marvell does and some of the potential revenue growth opportunities. Now, the company does have a lot of competitors, companies like AMD, like Intel, like Nvidia, like Qualcomm, and the list goes on and on. So this is a very competitive market. Now, earlier on in this episode, we did take a closer look at some of these companies that had a nice amount of long-term debt. But we can see most of this long-term debt is very low rates. We can see 2026 senior notes at 1.6%. 2028 at 2.5, 2031 at 2.9. Obviously, there's some high at, for example, at 5.7 and 5.9, but nothing too crazy. And that's why I believe this company's financial is not the worst thing. Now that we've understand a lot more of Marvell, we looked at their balance sheet as well and how their debt looks. We can kind of see how their AI revenue is expected to grow. So they believe that their AI revenue was roughly 550 million in the fiscal year of 2024. And that mainly came from the connectivity market. Now, in fiscal year of 2025, this is going to jump up by $1 billion to over 1.5. And that's going to be a mixture of two, connectivity and custom computes. So their custom compute, like we saw, was their custom ASIC solutions. And fiscal year of 2026, they believe it's going to grow at least another $1 billion. I personally think these numbers are a little bit conservative, and we can definitely see a little bit more growth in each fiscal year in the AI market, especially especially if the AI market continues in the trend we are right now. Obviously, if there is a slowdown in the AI space, there could be a slowdown in their AI revenue expectations. So AI is important, and for AI data infrastructure, it's pretty much data infrastructure for data centers. You need three things: compute, connectivity, and storage. So for the compute, they do kind of their custom compute solutions. For connectivity, they do things like with the Ethernet switches and those interconnect solutions that we saw that dealt with optical solutions there. And then with storage, they do have storage controllers. So they hit that infrastructure market pretty well. So now one of the biggest growth opportunities for them is the AI customer base, where big cloud server providers and big tech companies are creating their own AI CPUs, AI accelerators. So right now they mentioned that 3 out of the 4 US hyperscale operators are using Marvell to create semi-custom solutions. So customer A is expected to be making and is ramping out, is using Marvell for an AI training accelerator and an AI inference accelerator. So they unfortunately they don't give us information on who these customers are, but 3 out of 4 hyperscalers, the 4 hyperscalers are Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta platforms, right? So I believe those are the 4. So if out of those 4, I can kind of guess who customer A, customer B is, and maybe customer C. So customer A has an AI training accelerator and an AI inference accelerator. From what I remember, there's only one company that has a training accelerator and an inference accelerator in their product ramp right now, and that is Amazon. They have Amazon Trainium, AWS Trainium, and AWS Inferentia. So I would guess customer A could be Amazon. So customer B, we have the ARM CPU. We've actually just learned about a CPU coming in from Google. So customer B could be Google slash Alphabet. Customer C, that means could either be Microsoft or Meta. I'm going to be leaning maybe more on Meta. But obviously, these are all just guesses. I could be completely wrong here. But 3 out of the 4 hyperscalers are using Marvell already. We can see in 2023, Marvell gains 5% on reports. It won Amazon's ASIC chip design. Like I mentioned, I think that is customer A. Now here we can see an overall slide of why the data center market is growing and why it's important for the AI space. They believe in calendar year of 2028, the AI accelerated data center accelerated compute opportunity will be $202 billion. But most of it is actually coming from the AI acceleration, which is your AI GPUs, your AI ASIC solutions. Within there, Marvell does mention that the custom compute market is expected to be roughly $42.9 billion. So out of that 172, 42.9 is expected to come from accelerated custom compute, which is what Marvell just kind of mentions they do. Outside of that, Marvell also has this huge addressable market that is growing at a 29% compounded annual growth rate based on current numbers. Their biggest one is the accelerated compute, but they also see things in switching, in interconnect, and storage. We saw that interconnect again. If you guys want to look back at the slide, the interconnect would be things like here with like their optical interconnect modules. So overall, Marvell, in my opinion, does have a lot of growth opportunities. So that's all the slides that I have here. Let's go back to their overall just PE ratios just for my final thoughts here. So with a PE ratio forward 1 year of 27.68, I think maybe the market and analysts might be underestimating how good this can be. So I wouldn't Marvell could actually be one of my top 3 semiconductors in the future, I could say. So Marvell is one that after today's episode, I might start adding on to it. I haven't made the final decision, but Marvell, in forms of valuation, in forms of growth opportunities, is definitely looking pretty interesting. Obviously, I mentioned a lot of negativity that this company can see since they are in different industries. Some of those different industries can definitely see a pullback or over inventory correction, which can obviously affect things in the short term of things. In the long term of things, I do believe Marvell has a huge market opportunities. So this company is one that will be volatile, but definitely has the growth play thanks to the AI market. And Marvell, I think you are going to be joining my portfolio pretty soon, but I haven't made the final decision yet. So stay tuned. I'll take care, and I hope you guys did enjoy this overall update. So see you all next time.